please join me in welcoming Chief Ramon Batista. Great to have you.
Thank you.
So, my first question, if your officers are called out and there's a donkey in the bathtub, what are they instructed to do?
I don't know.
They didn't train you for that one, did they?
No, but I do have a quick PSA off of Melissa's presentation from earlier. We strongly suggest nobody parks on people's lawns. And a classic, don't drink and drive.
And of course, don't drink and drive.
And one other one. I want to, before we get going, I really want to do a shout out to my staff that's here with me today. It's Mr. Charles Cobbs, Detective Kozlowski, Sergeant Joey Hutchinson, Officer Silva from Central Division. And we also have a table in the back because we are hiring all the time. So, and also two really great guys, Assistant Chief Dan Butler overseeing our administrative bureau. He's in charge of recruiting and hiring and training. And Chief Ken Cost, who has one of the toughest jobs at Mesa PD. He oversees over 500 folks working in patrol, and that is one of the toughest places to be. But two really great guys.
All right, and thank you for your service, gentlemen. Well, we are happy to have you back on the cusp of your second anniversary.
Yes.
The Mesa Chamber has a long history of being supportive of public safety. As you know, over the last couple of years, there have been challenges facing the Mesa Police Department. We understand that recently, and obviously there's been some conflicts, and the Chamber and its board of directors would love to see the parties involved come together and work towards a resolution and move forward to the ultimate benefit for the great city of Mesa. Can you share some of your thoughts on that with us and moving forward?
Oh, absolutely, and thank you for the opportunity. I'll start with this basic premise and foundation. Mesa PD is comprised of 761 police officers and over 400 professional staff. And so these 1,200 men and women are some of the best that I've ever seen. Courageous, empathetic, brave, and hardworking at every turn. Our police officers go out every day. We are data-driven. The patrol districts get together once a week and on a daily basis and examine what's going on, where the crime's occurring, and then they go out and they focus on those areas in order to keep the city of Mesa safe. And our professional staff, amazing folks. We have civilians that go out and assist our patrol officers in taking the lower level calls for service off of their plate in order for our patrol officers to be more available. And at the same time, our professional staff are working throughout every corner of the department. We have, well, first let me tell you that the DNA of the Mesa Police Department is one of crime fighting and public safety. And as I talk about DNA, I'll tell you that our forensics lab, for example, is one of the best in the country. We are still one of the few police departments in the country that does DNA analysis in property-related crimes. So what we do with that information is that we go out there and break that cycle of thievery, which any community deals with. We're a large city, but we're also one of the safest large cities in the country. And it is because of these tactics and these folks and really the makeup of the community that we have that we are able to say that with such pride. But like any organization, we're made up of human beings. And I'll tell you that without a doubt, I believe that we recruit the very best and that they come to work every day with the goal in mind of doing their best. But they come up to the realities and the dynamics of policing in America, where you have mental illness, homelessness, drug addiction, alcohol abuse, and also a sliver of the population that is at times hell-bent on criminal behavior and hurting others. And that is where our officers have to be at their best, but we're human beings, and there'll be times when we're gonna miss the mark. And as our department's primary cheerleader and the person that goes out there and talks about all the great things that we do, I'm also the person that when I see something that we all recognize as a shortcoming, I have to be the person in front of that to give notice to the public that we made a mistake and that we're human beings and we're gonna continue to go out there and be better at it. Because that is what builds the public trust. That is what makes the difference in our community. So when our officers pull up to an event, a crime that is unfolding, we want those witnesses, those folks in the community that trust us, to be the first ones to walk up and say, "Officer, let me tell you what happened." Versus what we see in other parts of the country, where first thing they do is they whip out their phone and begin the process of videotaping and being antagonistic because they don't trust the police. And so my job is to ensure that we have that balance, that people trust us, that people understand that we're human beings, that we're going to make mistakes, and at the same time, constantly talk about all the good work that we do.
In my job being in radio, and I understand the media side of things and how we approach stories and our responsibility to our listeners or to our viewerships. But I think sometimes in a person in your position and then somebody in my position, what really gets lost is the human level. Can you speak for a moment to just your passion and your love for the residents of Mesa and the men and women that serve under you?
So, without a doubt, I have a lifetime of an experience of living in Southern Arizona and now here for the past 2 years with my family living in Mesa. And I can tell you that I am a resident of Mesa. My family lives in Mesa, and we absolutely love it. We see the differences in how the community comes together and how city government works together in order to better everyone's lives. I couldn't be more proud of representing Mesa or being the Mesa Police Chief. And every day that I come to work, I think about the fact that this is a great honor. I wanted to be a police officer since I was 10 years old, and now I am like in my 33rd year of doing this. And
I thought you were about to say you were in your 30s, and I was like, I don't know about that.
Not quite. but very seriously, I'll tell you that the survey that was conducted, the vote that was conducted recently, it was a not personal issue, but it was a tough issue for me. It also was very hard on our organization because it does put us in the spotlight in a time frame when we are moving forward and making great progress in how we engage and how we handle crime and the things that we do. We haven't been in the limelight for over a year with anything that is dramatic, and I feel proud about that. I feel proud of our officers and the fact that we're making great progress. And really, I look forward to the opportunity to sitting back at the table with our labor groups and talking about the things that matter to our police officers. Just a few months ago, we sat around the table. And ironed out an incentive package for our officers that work in patrol. And we started that for patrol officers because that is the toughest place to work. But we have folks in patrol that have made that their career. They don't go to detectives, they stay in patrol, and they deliver the very best service. And so we worked together with the labor groups in order to bring incentives to those guys. And that's the kind of thing that I think is most productive. And that's, I think, where we should focus on our energy in order to benefit our officers.
Now that you've been here for 2 years, tell us a little bit more about living and working in Mesa. Going back to when you showed up on the job to now you've had a couple years underneath your belt.
So 2 years ago, the first time I was here, I was reminded this morning of the fact that I was talking about receiving a red light ticket and going to traffic school. Not the case this time. It's been a great 2 years. I am telling you, we love living here. We're a part of the community. We attend the events, and I just couldn't be happier with the fact that I came here and realized that there was really great planning that had occurred prior to my arrival. And now I feel like so lucky to be a recipient of that planning from the city's perspective, the department's perspective. And so launching new initiatives or progressing forward and trying new things, it's not difficult because the foundation is already here, and we're already doing really terrific things.
All right, in addition to the Mesa Police Citizens Academy, we're under the impression that we got a new program for citizens to be involved in. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? And does it involve monitoring stolen soap and clotheslines?
No more.
And spitting on sidewalks?
So yes, from our engagement and meetings with the community, we came up with something called a Community Engagement Academy. And while we have a Citizens Police Academy that we've always had, it's quite an investment for those of you that have been in it. It's a 10-week program, one night a week for 10 weeks, and most of it is held out at our police facility, training facility that's in Northeast Mesa. So it's kind of a drive, and it's way out there, and it's an investment. So what we turned that into is a one-day experience in the neighborhoods where we patrol. And we've had 2 academies that we conducted. It's a one-day event, and in 45 days, we've put like 70 folks through this academy. And they get to meet officers up close and personal. They get to listen to topics and ask questions about traffic, because everyone always has questions about, traffic laws. And
I have a few.
So did I. And we get to also put them through training and use of force. And so they get to be involved in scenarios where they have to make decisions about what kind of force to use in a given situation. And I got to tell you that it is so cool to see 70 people in 45 days, a one-day experience, and they range in age from their late teens all the way up to their mid-70s. And it is this beautiful mosaic of what makes up Mesa. And I think that we're getting terrific bang for the buck, and we're going to be having those once a quarter, and we're going to move them all throughout different parts of the city, all with the goal of trying to get as many folks to come to that as possible and talk about who Mesa PD is and what services we offer.
How do we learn more about that?
MesaPD.com.
Okay, we've heard, and we hear things like crime in the city of Mesa is down, and sometimes we just throw that out because it's fodder and it's just stuff that we tell the media and so forth, but that's a big deal. And especially when you take a look at crime around the nation, and not only different parts of the country, but different parts of the state. But for a city of this size, for crime rates to be down, it's a big deal. Tell us a little bit more about that.
So Mesa is the 36th largest city in the country. We know that. 138 square miles, 500,000 people. And for us to have the kind of crime rate that we have when we compare ourselves to slightly smaller communities and slightly larger communities, we're at the very top of the safety aspect of it. Many years ago, like many other cities around the country, our crime rate was pretty high. And as we've seen this decline across the country, we've enjoyed a part of that as well. But even when we compare ourselves to neighboring communities and, like I said, like-sized cities, we are still safer in terms of events per 1,000 people. It's dropped dramatically, making us roughly number 2 in the country with like-sized cities. And how does it happen? It happens, like I mentioned earlier, the data-driven policing, where we are examining data, where we know where things are happening, and we put the officers into those areas. And then it's the focus of the officers and the DNA that I talked about earlier, where we are really good. There's time after time, we have an emergency event, and we respond. I remember a case out on the east side, very large police district out there. But we responded to a burglary that was in progress. And I love seeing the results of these things where we can get out there on time and make the arrest, so that in a property-related crime such as that, we're able to capture the perpetrator. But these are stories where I see over and over again, a crime bulletin comes out on a Monday, and I'm telling you, this is not the norm across the country. A crime bulletin comes out on Monday, and by Thursday, the person's identified and/or arrested. That, I tell you, is amazing. And that is what breaks the cycle of crime.
And I think sometimes what's lost on us as business owners is the synergy between the business owner, the chamber, and the police department. Because for us as business owners, if we can tout that not only are we one of the safest cities, but every year crime is going down and down, that brings more residents to our city. Because people want to live somewhere where they feel like their children are safe, which of course helps us as local business owners. And that really just comes down to we need your department, we need you guys to do what you're doing and to continue to keep us safe. So thank you for that.
Absolutely.
Share with us the exciting news that our newest recruiting efforts have yielded. Take us through that process and
Oh my
where we're at
goodness.
with that.
Yeah, so we're...
Am I a candidate?
Sure. So the city of Mesa passed a public safety sales tax that's going to help police and fire hire more police officers and firefighters. And I'll tell you just a snapshot of our recruiting efforts. In 2017, we had 19 recruiting events. In 2019, we've had 82. In 2017, we had about 500 applicants. So far this year, we're nearing 800 applicants. And so what is that yielding? We're going to graduate 24 new officers from the police academy today.
Oh, nice.
And in July, we start a brand new academy class with 45 new Mesa officers. Now, beginning in 2020, we're going to raise the bar for ourselves, and we're going to begin to do 3 police academies per year instead of 2. And the goal there would be to put at minimum 30 officers per academy class in order to help us grow our police department in the next 4 years by 59 or 60 new officers. That's on top of the work that we do in order to maintain our attrition so that we don't fall behind. I go to major city chiefs conferences, and a lot of times the conversation revolves around what the vacancy rate is. And I am proud to say that because of the planning prior to my arrival, our city staff allows us to hire ahead of time, anticipating that we're going to have retirements and separations in order to make sure that we keep up with the folks that are retiring and leaving. And we keep up with the attrition rate. And so I go to these conferences and they're like, what's your vacancy rate? And I'm like, I think I might be down 20. And they're like, what?
So when you're at these conferences and you guys throw down a couple beers, what are you guys really talking about? No, you don't have to answer that.
Crime. We talk about crime.
All right, I think that we do have a little bit of time and have a couple audience members that might have a few questions for the chief.
Just real quick, Chief Batista mentioned the community engagement program. My wife and I took it, the very first one at MCC, and it's excellent. Everybody here should attend that. It's really, really good. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we have a gentleman up here.
Hey, Chief, you mentioned the public safety tax increase that happened last year.
Yes.
What other impacts has that had on the department?
There was also a bond election that occurred, and because of that, we are going to be able to build a new substation on the northeast portion of town. It'll help us have better balance between a really large police district that we have out there called Superstition, 71 square miles. We'll be able to break that up in half and then achieve a better balance of the distribution of officers and the call load between the west side, which is older and very busy, all the way out to the east side. In addition to that, we're going to rebuild our driving track, make it bigger, and a new evidence facility. So we're going to finally have our own standalone evidence facility, and we're excited because the way I see it, our future looks just amazingly bright with the hiring and the new officers that are coming on board. I get so excited about going to a police graduation today because they all look so amazing and just...
And young.
And young, yeah. It is a little bit of a young man's game, but it's cool.
All right, what are some of your proudest accomplishments in the last 2 years?
You know, I'll tell you that the proudest moments that I have, to be honest with you, is once a quarter. Once a quarter, we get together for an event that is called our quarterly awards ceremony. And we have it in a room about this size, and is where we get to recognize all the events that unfold before us on a daily basis, and officers are recognized, professional staff are recognized in all their respective areas. And they come to this room about this big, and they coworkers attend, they bring their families, and to me, it is such a joy to see the esprit de corps, the camaraderie, and the support and the morale that exudes out of these quarterly events where we get to highlight and talk about the good work that our officers are doing. And it full range of great criminal cases that officers do outstanding work to things where you think, wow, you know, the police officer that responds on a call for a person that's at a lake fishing without a license and comes across him and sees that the man is in need and says, what do you need? And the guy says, shoes and a fishing license. And so he takes him to Walmart and out of his own pocket pays for the shoes, pays for the fishing license. And there's stories after stories like that of caring and compassion that don't make the headlines.
Yeah.
But for us internally, we celebrate those things because it's just as important for us to see that as this other aspect of us that I tell you about where we're really good at catching the bad guy. But we have a whole host of really caring and wonderful people.
All right, my last question for you, and I want you to think before you answer. So a man of my stature,
Right.
and in my position,
Well, of course.
I come to a Mesa hotel. Am I required to use my real name, or am I permitted to use an alias?
You can use whatever name they ask you for. I think they ask for ID, so.
All right, Chief Batista, it's been great having you. Thank you for your service and for all that you do.
Thanks a lot.